Have you ever wanted a quick entryway into a deep state of being where healing, insight, clarity, and deep release are accessible almost instantaneously? Hmm. A Nebraska native now based in San Diego, our guest today, Nicole Rager, has spent the last decade teaching breathwork to people all over the world. She combines her down to earth, lighthearted nature with a passion for healing, love, and wholeness to bring you an experience unlike any other. She'll introduce you to or remind you of the incredible transformative power that lies within your own body, a tool you'll be able to come back to time and time again.
Mm. Nicole, or as I would call her, mi amiguita.
Mhm.
I would say to everyone, I say she is a human angel, a beautiful human angel. Her compassion, kindness, and intelligence are palpable qualities one can sense where we are in her presence. I met her back in 2017 when we were working at a retreat center, and it was love at first sight. She's not only an incredibly powerful woman, but an extraordinary breathwork facilitator. She is a healer that uses breath as medicine. And when doing a breathwork session led by Nicole, you know you're in for a treat. In her presence, all of you is welcomed and accepted. So thank you, amiga, for being this incredible angel that has given so much to me. And thank you for saying yes to being in our podcast today.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me, both of you. I just feel so much love. Like you sharing, both of you sound so lovely as you introduced, and the quality of openness and softness in my heart and the compassion you talk of, I feel you're reflecting back to me so beautifully, and it just feels so good. I'm just so happy to be with you. Thank you.
Yes, yes. And we're
Yes,
happy that you're here.
quite.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can tell. That's so beautiful.
So let's begin asking you, and I just said it and I want to repeat it. When I'm in your presence and when people are in your presence, there is this feeling tone of like, I am fully welcome here. You have this capacity to welcome whatever is arising, which I find an incredible quality, especially for a healer, because many of us, and I'm just talk for myself. Sometimes I'm very quick into jumping into, how can I fix this? How can I make this better? How can I release this? And I feel that in your breath work and when I'm in your presence, there's that space when you're welcoming whatever is arising, and especially I'm talking about our emotions. So can you talk a little bit about how you came to this consciousness that you carry?
Thank you. I'm so happy that you feel that way with me too. That's the greatest honor and gift I feel like I can give someone, is to be able to hold that space of unconditional welcoming. And as you were talking, I think that there's a way that I get to do that for other people, and I want to, with such honesty and depth, because I need that also. And I think throughout my life, I've had a pattern or a way of being quite perfectionistic, and like saying, I want to fix this, I want it to be better, I want it to be the best. And there are lots of parts of me that get sad and frustrated when I can't just be enough, or I haven't just felt enough. And so then in my own healing journey with breath work and with other people, with God, when I feel like, oh, okay, I'm enough, like it's okay, it's all this working at whatever is actually okay, just to be right where you are, that gives me the most profound sense of relief. And so then it's very easy for me, for some reason, to do that with other people because of that. I think it's like my greatest need, one of, to know that I'm enough. So then is that clear? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Right. We all need it
Yes.
to know that wherever we are is okay. And I mean, maybe it's Western culture, maybe it's worldly, I don't know, but that there's something to fix, or even like be positive about it. Just pray about it, and I don't know, it's just temporary. Let it go. That kind of quickness to avoid the darkness
Yes.
can be pretty pervasive, and then we avoid the whole other side of like, wow, what is the depth of the sadness that I'm feeling, the shame, the pain, the anger, all of that a lot of times gets shoved down because it's too difficult for ourselves and for others to be around. So I like to get it, feel it, so it can come to the light,
Yes. I know that there's a deep conversation emerging right now around the suggestion in contemporary culture around easiness versus ease or flow. And not that the two are opposites. I don't mean to be dualistic. I feel you're truly an expert on what allowance is, what self forgiveness is in that moment of self-acceptance, of allowance. Would you speak into that? And you touched on avoiding our shadow side or our darker sides, and perhaps a habit towards perfectionism, fixingness, and I think that from what I've observed is species wide, just that sense of unworthiness, and our way through it is through it. It's got to be through it. Is any of that stimulating you to speak into, Nicole? I've not asked you a direct question yet.
Well, so many. Go ahead. Were you going to say more?
I'm launching concepts at you without an exact question, because I know how intuitive you are. So I'm going to stop talking.
No, thank you. Thank you for your trust and seeing me as an expert in that. I feel there is a part of me that is expert in that. And I'll just be very honest with you. I used to feel like if someone said like, oh, that's just spirit talking through me or spirit moving through me, I thought that was very cheesy, and just like, what does that mean? And I mean, you guys are so versed in that, the divine qualities. We are the divine. It is the divine emerging through us. So if I'm an expert in it, it's because when I'm in relationship with someone, or if, especially in breath work, that's like I was created to be in that space and for the divine to flow through me as a loving presence and loving exactly what is. So I think, okay, there's a couple of things that are my anchors in that, which would be, if it's happening, it's good. It is divinely allowed, essentially. And so, especially as a human, we have these emotions built in for a reason. They all have a purpose and they all have benefit, even if it's just growing the depth of our experience as humans. So I guess that's one of my big anchors, is like, okay, if you're feeling sad, there's a reason for it. What happens if we just soften around it instead of resisting it? Because we know what we resist persists. And yet there's so much unconscious resistance of the darkness, the heaviness, the pain. Y'all have spoken about that too. It either pain pushes or something pulls. And a lot of times it feels more fun for the light to pull us.
Yeah. That's so well said. And, it's reminding me of the qualities of the divine feminine, versus the divine masculine. Divine masculine is represented by the sun, light, knowledge. Divine feminine represented by the darkness, by the moon, being able to be okay navigating in the darkness without
Yes.
judging it. So yeah, you're speaking into that. And we came into a world where the divine masculine is dominating, and religion is based upon that.
Yes.
Seek for light, seek for clarity, seek to know. God forbids you're in uncertainty. God forbids you don't have light during the darkness, because you'll be lost. And if we take it back into our evolution, yes, if you couldn't see your surroundings, you could be killed. So
Yeah.
we've been programmed to repel that, to say, I don't want to go there. And going back to what I said at the beginning, what I love about working with you or being in your presence is like, there is this moment of like, it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna cry. We're gonna release. I'm just talking for myself, because this is my favorite part about doing breathwork with you. It's like this big release, and you're holding the person, saying it's okay. Like it's a good thing that right now you're feeling all of this.
Yes.
So thank you for
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Thank you. And let's see, oh, what was the last little bit that was just coming? You've said this too, that whenever there's a darkness or a chaos, there's an order seeking to emerge, and it's like the body knows how to find that. So when we just like I was saying, soften into and relax into and allow, maybe meet ourselves with the love and light, then the body does what it knows how to heal. It knows how to feel and to release and to transform emotional energy and all sorts of energy. And I feel like with the feminine energy there too, of just being pure presence, sometimes that is the catalyst, often the catalyst for the transformation that needs to happen, instead of the driving and the sun. And even the seeds, that's another analogy I've been really loving about the feminine, is like when we put a seed in the soil, it's in the dark. And yet things are happening. It has to be in the dark to allow the things to emerge from the unknown. That's kind of how I see the emotion, like going into the deep, dark emotions too. It's like we're going into the void so that something new can emerge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Thanks for speaking to the masculine energy, because a lot of it is like, it's good to recognize the culture we're in, and so that when it's difficult to slow down or difficult to drop into the feelings or whatever, that it's not like something wrong with us. It's like there's a lot of us, we're kind of trained out of it in a way.
Such compassionate understanding. I love how you describe things. I feel like you're discussing sacred listening inevitably. And so I'm going to reflect that at you, that this is another one of your talents, is showing up, and one of your gifts, and showing up and sacredly listening and being there for whatever wants to arise, even if it is in the darkness. Can we go a little bit deeper now then to speak about breath work? And this word is coming up in our conversation, release. And I know that we, again, as a species, we carry, at least in our culture, a bit of baggage around crying, around judging tears as negative, especially in the masculine perspective. Little boys are taught it's not okay to cry. Still, that kind of teaching is going on in our species. Can you speak into release with breath work? Anything that you'd like to share around that, and how that can relate to self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, and making peace with the tears and the things that want releasing as we get into some breath work?
Sometimes for me, in my logical, heavily trained mind, let's say, that's why a lot of this, okay, if I remember that I'm a human, if I remember that these emotions, I was born with them, and that it's natural, then it helps me give a little space to like, okay, how can I just let it do what it does, because there's something here. But what happens is as we go through life and we experience whatever we experience, we have a stimulus and then we receive, and then the body responds in a certain way. The breath is directly, intimately, intricately related with every single part of that. So say you experience something. I have a great example. I was just, before this podcast, I was riding with my friend, and in a car. She's got a brand new baby, 1 month old, and it's one of the first times out of the house. So baby's in the back seat, starting to cry a little bit, and she's driving, and I can see her whole body is still. She's not breathing at all, because that stimulus of the baby crying and her not being able to fix it is terrifying to her. So to just like take in the feeling of her baby and herself is overwhelming. So what happens is the breath stops, or it gets very, very shallow. Because if the breath is open and flowing, the organism, the body, our excuse me, our body, mind, spirit, all of it will fully take in what we're experiencing. And sometimes that's too much. Or like you spoke to, Jen, you have a response, you want to cry naturally, and then the stimulus outside of you, your parents, your authority figures say, no, it's okay, here, look at this, or here, play with this, or eat this food, or why are you crying? It's not that big of a deal, you know? So then you have a natural response, your breath is open, let's say, and then you get mixed signals from the environment, and we contract, which is so great. Like that's also a built-in mechanism, very natural, so that we can survive when life comes at us with very big things, accidents, physical trauma, abuse, emotional abuse, just all the crazy that is possible here. So the breath helps us to survive. And sometimes we get stuck in that pattern. Often we get stuck in that pattern, because we either don't have the environment or the opportunity to then take a deep breath and allow whatever the actual response would have been, which is like terror or shame or grief or whatever, we don't have the opportunity to let it complete itself. Okay. So a lot of us are running around with stuff stuck in our bodies, incomplete responses. Our cells have memory to that. And so we get these kind of energetic blockages that weigh us down, make it hard to connect with ourselves, to feel like expressing emotion is safe with other people, with ourselves, and just to be who we are, you know? So to your question now about, okay, what is release with breath work? Well, the amazing thing is, and Paula, yes, I am brilliant. And also your breath is brilliant, that if you just allow or have the opportunity and the presence and the willingness, whatever, to take a deep breath, immediately things begin to shift. So if you take a few breaths, and like in, say, a breathwork session, the body gets to like, oh God, okay, finally I can release all this stuff that I have been holding for so long because I didn't know how to let it go, or I wasn't supported, or whatever, you know, or it wasn't safe.
I have a question that I've never asked you, I realize.
Ooh, yes, great.
So I'm all about breathing. I'm all about, you know, when I'm all like, thank God I didn't be alive. You know, taking conscious breaths, you know, that if I start a class, if I start with my clients a session, like I would be like, okay, let's take a moment, take a deep breath. When I wake up in the morning, let's take a deep breath with myself, you know, like I'm aware. This is so interesting. I'm aware when I'm intentional about it, I'm aware. But what you just said, that, you know, your friend was tensing up, and I find myself throughout the day like, oh man, I'm not breathing. And I was just telling Jen how very soon I'm going to participate in a plant medicine retreat. And it is my intention to and I don't know if I said this to Jen, but it is my intention from this moment until I get to that point, which is in 2 weeks, to practice a little bit more surrender, because I know that I have this chronic pain in my shoulder and below my neck on my left side that and in your classes have come through. This is control. This is when I feel like this is when I stop breathing. What would you suggest for those people like me, for us that, you could, I mean, I feel like I'm very trained into placing my awareness sometime, in the morning or when I'm in my climb, blah, blah, blah. But my question is, when I go unconscious, like, do you have a reminder that says, Nicole, breathe? Because I've spent time with you and I know you do a lot of pauses to breathe. Like you talking with Nicole and she'll be like, and it's beautiful because I'm like, well, she's breathing right now. She's being aware. So I don't know if that's a clear question, but this is something that I'm curious. How can I train myself to be a better conscious breather throughout my day?
Yeah. Well, I think you're already on the path, because doing the practice habitually makes it so that you'll notice it more, and I agree with you. It's really helpful to have somebody from the outside, because once you start paying attention to the breath, I mean, I'm lucky in that way that I watch people breathe for a living. And so then if I can like just tell, that like, hold on a minute, when's the last time you took a deep breath? It starts to feel weird, It's like, hold on, there's a stagnation, there's something happening. So I'm lucky in that way to be able to help people like, hey, take a breath. And then inviting friends to do the same for you. But I love setting a reminder on your phone of just like, we use those things all the time of just like, okay, or maybe like stacking the habit, of like, okay, every time before I go into this class or every time I go to the bathroom, the toilet says, take a deep breath. Or every time I brush my teeth, take a deep breath. And then like things that you already have to do, just link them. Because then that will establish, I believe, an awareness deep within you and your breath that like when you start to feel it holding, it doesn't feel good anymore. When you start to open your awareness too, you start to go into different situations and you're like, wow, that I used to be able to go into a mall and have a great time, and now it doesn't feel good anymore for me. So it's the same kind of thing, like just making little practices.
I love that. I love the bathroom one. That's one. Yeah,
you always have realizations in the bathroom, so like
yeah, exactly.
Keep them coming. And then this came to me when you were talking to, there's if what you're working on is surrender, how can you put your body in positions that feel like surrender, and not just like, okay, I'm going to lay down, but just notice if your toes are surrendering. Notice if when you put your arms out, if like your hands kind of clenching, like how can I, because it's all one thing, it's all related, the way you do one thing is often related to the way you do other things, right? So if you want to surrender and let go of control, practice doing it in other areas.
Can you repeat that question? How can I put my body in a state of surrender? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Check
creatively,
your jaw, checking your eye tension, your toes.
Yes.
I love that. Are my toes in surrender? Are they grasping or clenched? Are they relaxed? Soft.
And then meeting with compassion right where you are. Oh, why are my toes clenched? How come I can't let go? No. Like, oh wow, okay. There's a part of me that still is afraid. I know. I see you. Okay, we're doing great. Look, I just relaxed my cheeks. Good for me, Softness. Yeah.
Before we started recording, we were talking about your gifts and working with you as a type of emotional hygiene. Paula
Mm,
was saying that's what it feels like to do a breathwork class with you, and we invite our listeners to take advantage of those opportunities, which we will discuss later.
mhm.
Um, I heard you talking about cellular memory, and I want to
Mm,
propose also cellular hygiene
yes,
as a part of your work.
yes.
Um, and you said something really interesting around how you're able to pick up when those around you are not breathing.
Mhm,
And I'm wondering if you could tip off our listeners to what are the signs when
mm,
we are cut off from our breath and that
mm,
it doesn't feel well. I'm quoting you that how do we know?
mhm,
What are the signs that our listeners can
mm,
look for?
mhm. Usually you can tell by the end of the day
Mm.
if you go, "Oh," and it's like, whoa, I didn't do that all day long. That's one good tip off. And even just like starting to look around at other people, that people breathe in different ways too. So just breathing in general is amazing and will cleanse your body and start to reset and normalize your nervous system. I like taking a deep breath. But some of us breathe that some of us like stop breathing, but then also we breathe in sort of less than ideal ways. So you might be breathing a lot and you're like, I'm doing great, but all of your breath is like up high. So your shoulders move, your chest moves, but then there's no movement in your low belly, for example, which would indicate like a heightened state of awareness, maybe some anxiety. Like that's what happens when you're in an anxious state is your breath goes up high, your lungs move to bring in more and more quickly.
Mm.
So you could pay attention, like I think to notice where if you're breathing, number one, if there's like a big giant sigh at the end of the day, like, oh, that's the first time. And then also just like I put my hands on my body a lot, like put one hand like below my belly button and then one hand on my chest and allow myself to take a breath from there. Like, and see if I can get my belly to receive the breath or allow my belly to receive the breath and let it fill all the way to the top and then back out again. And just doing that to see how it feels, like, whoa, that feels super awkward. Or because we're meant to have like these open, flowing, connected breaths, and yet we don't usually, or we're not breathing in that easy, fluid way. So just giving yourself the opportunity right now, maybe if whoever's listening, to put one hand on the belly and one on the chest, close your eyes and breathe in, and then let it fall out like a sigh, and then just see how it feels.
It feels amazing to me.
Yeah, already something shifts, right?
Yeah.
And feel more grounded.
Mm-hmm. Me too. That's the big part about the belly breathing is a lot of us disconnect from our bodies because being in the body feels scary for some reason or another, or we get super mental, so the energy just comes up to our heads, and then we're like, so just breathing into the low belly like that brings all the energy back into like, whoa, okay, here I'm in a body.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
just reminded me of something I want to ask you too. You said very mental, and I believe that one of my gifts in this life is that I'm very cerebral, meaning I love information, I love learning, I love teaching. Um, Expanding meditation feels really nice. Like it's all very prepared, and I want to make it a habit. What I'm trying to get to is that I feel that it's all well and good that I do this work in consciousness, and I know many of our listeners will resonate with this. And one of the things that I've noticed is that my body has a harder time catching up with what I'm doing up here. Even in
Mm-hmm.
my heart, let's say I'm feeling very expanded in my heart, I'm feeling very unified
Mm-hmm.
with God and with everyone. And sometimes it's like my body is like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
already you're up there, but I'm not.
I got to catch up.
I gotta catch up. So can you talk a little bit about that? The
Yeah.
how the body has a harder time to catching
Mhm.
up with what's happening in our
Mhm.
consciousness.
Mhm.
Ugh.
That's a great question, right? Yeah,
Mm.
Jen thinks so too. Huh? Yeah. And I'm grateful because that brings me back to your question or your point about cellular memory, you know? So the body, when we don't allow, or it's not allowed for whatever reason, the present moment experience to integrate itself. Like that's kind of what happens when the breath stops, when we go into trauma response and it isn't allowed to be resolved, then it's not integrated with our being. Okay, so it gets kind of like jammed, is how I picture it. Like, okay, we shove it down, and then there's like a little janky kind of crumbly, or I don't know, tangled energy field is how I see it, like in my cells, of like that traumatic memory just gets stored in my tissues, my muscles, my body. So when we breathe, especially in a connected fluid way, so like your breath comes in and then out and then in and then out, and it's a little faster than you normally breathe, it creates this circuit of kind of present moment power, one, but also life force energy. You're breathing in oxygen. You're starting to raise the vibration of your physical body, your emotional body, your cellular body. Everything is like taking in this high frequency energy, which is your life force, your breath coming in. So what happens is you create this high frequency thing in your body, energy field. And then the dense energy, which is kind of like that, what I say, like kind of jangly, or like heavy, dense, maybe muddied, or just it's a lower frequency is what it is. It's lower frequency energy, begins to entrain to that of the breath. So it literally transforms its frequency. It's like you have these super high vibrational waves, and then it comes in contact with the low vibrational waves, and then the low ones start to move faster. So you literally transform your energy body. You transform the memories, the vibrational memory that is in your cells, by allowing it to move and feel. That's a lot of times what the release is or feels like, is like old energy that wasn't allowed to move now gets to move. Okay. So I say that because breath work and these kind of practice, breath work is one way, I don't know if you've said this already on any of your episodes, but like the breath is it's like that direct link between the spiritual plane and the physical plane. So it like creates a bridge for your spirit knowledge to get into the body much quicker, and for your spirit to kind of like elevate the body. So from a scientific standpoint, I guess I'm saying that because if you do breath work and plant medicine too, those kind of things help clear the dense energy so that your body is already there. Like it catches up quicker, because you're not holding the denseness. You just are opening to the higher frequency.
Oh, wow.
Does that make sense?
Oh, that's a brilliant explanation, which is like, oh, I'm signing up for everything that you're offering.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Yes,
Breathe
this
more.
is the science of breath, which
Yeah.
is an advanced understanding. I feel like you're a life force healer. And that this is what we're discussing. We're talking about the life force and
Yes.
our relationship with it, which inevitably is our relationship with spirit, is our relationship with
Yes.
self.
Yes.
And for breath to be the first occurrence that we
Yes.
have out, once we leave our beautiful womb,
Yeah.
and the last experience as we transition into other form. It's something that we so take for granted as a
Yes.
human, as a species, in this dimension. And
Yes.
so it is something so easy to underestimate. And so I
Yes.
just want to acknowledge as well for our listeners and for everyone out there, we're all breathing. And as far
Yeah.
as Nicole is concerned, we're all doing a really good job at it. It's an innate talent, a blessing that we're all carrying around with us. And it's a beautiful relationship that we all can nurture at any time, no matter
Yes.
what the circumstances are.
Yes.
In fact, it's a lifeboat. It can be in those moments.
Oh
I
my
know in
gosh.
my life, in the most terrifying moments of my life, sometimes it felt as if the only thing I had to hold on to was breath,
Yep.
and the gratitude that arises knowing that my body has been doing that, and that spirit life force has been expressing itself through me without me paying attention to it. And yet when
Yes.
I need that lifeboat, it is right there. And when we have a spiritual conversation, we say closer than the breath, nearer than the jugular.
Yep.
And so I'm so very excited for this conversation. It's incredibly rich
Mm.
and compassionate. Your humanity shows so beautifully in your care for this very natural act, this thing we call breathing, and your service towards all of us. I really appreciate you, Nicole.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you too. That was beautiful. A new awareness that you just shared with me too. Like, whoa, that's how we think of spirit. It's always here. Always. We cannot be separated from the love that we're swimming in, that we are, but we can. We can perceive that we are, meaning like we cannot pay attention, I guess.
That's
How
right.
you said that with the breath. It's going to keep going and keep fueling and keep being. And then when we want to pay attention, it's like, great, here I am. Yeah, let's play together, you know? Yeah,
Oh,
that's a beautiful relationship. Thank you.
yeah, and I appreciate you facilitating that for all of us. Uh, what are some opportunities for our listeners to benefit from your services? I know that you do one-on-one, you have a weekly class, workshops.
Mhm.
Can you speak into just a little bit of the opportunities that we have to continue working with you? And then, Paula, if I may, we're inviting you back, Nicole.
Oh, great. Good.
It's
I love
official.
it. Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I
Yes.
love it. I know we
We've
could
only
talk forever,
scratched.
huh?
I feel that way too. Yeah. Yeah. We've only
Mhm.
scratched the surface. There's so much more here. I have no intention of cutting our conversation short. And I just feel inspired to ask you, what are some ways that people can take advantage of your services?
Thank you. Easiest way I would say is YouTube. That's a great one. I have a bunch of videos up there that are very approachable and free. And some of my favorite clients have come from YouTube. Like they feel like they get to know me and then they show up and they're like, oh, I'm meeting you for the first time. And it's such a delight for me. So that's an easy way. And for anybody, there's like a 30-day challenge on there that's got 30 different practices for connecting with your breath. That's a good one. And then, yes, I do weekly live classes, which take it to another level because then I get to watch you breathe and I get to coach you individually. And then we create a really beautiful virtual community as well, which just takes things to another level. So
Okay,
those are
I'm
on
going to reiterate
Tuesdays.
that that is online. That's a
Yes.
class
Yeah.
online. So no matter where you're listening from, this is
Mhm.
something that you can take advantage of
Yep.
immediately.
Yep. Yep. And I would. It's so powerful. They're so powerful. I have 2 clients last week just messaged with the same kind of message saying like, I don't know how it works. I just know I feel better after, and I feel better than I ever have, you know? So that to me is like, I don't, if it works. Reverend Lee says that too. Or Lee, yeah. She said we do the practice because it works. So that those classes and then retreats too, as they come next year. I'll hopefully do a retreat in Costa Rica, maybe with Paula. Won't that be great?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
so it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. And one-on-ones, yeah, you mentioned that too. That way we can just go deeper into what's going on with each individual, and I get to stare at your breath and help you open things up. That's like we say in transformational breath that one session can be like a year of therapy or 5 years of therapy, because we get to the root energetically of what's going on and we can transform it there. So yeah.
Yeah, that's that cellular hygiene that we were
Yes.
discussing.
Yes. Mhm.
And
We'll
also,
include those
Mhm.
links, Nicole, and make sure that our
Mm,
listeners have access to you. Sorry to interrupt, Paula.
thank you.
Yeah. And there's one more thing that you do, and I would love for you to talk about it.
Mhm,
That you use affirmations when you're
mhm,
breathing.
Yes.
You're looking at the pattern of the breath.
mhm,
You use affirmation. How come you use affirmation? What is that for?
mm. That's a great question too. Thank you. So I trained with Judith Kravitz, who's the founder of Transformational Breath. And so she's got this whole science around the breath pattern and what it means about you as an individual, or what it could mean, because there are patterns, there are unique nuances, of course, and there are different places in the body where we tend to hold certain things. Slash, remember how I said at the beginning, like the breath is intricately and intimately related with everything?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the way we're living and showing up and how we feel about life. So that means the subconscious mind is often the thing in charge of how our breath is doing what it's doing. So when we open up the breath and we get into these sessions, we open up a different state of consciousness where we can tap into the subconscious really easily.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm seeing a certain pattern or I feel like a knot right here or something like that, or your shoulder or something, as you're breathing, then we can feed in positive affirmations to reprogram, you know? Yeah. So say if your heart is like, oh, I don't breathe in my heart. That's too scary. It's too scary to open my heart, says the subconscious mind. I'm not worthy of love, so I'm just going to keep my heart kind of closed. So then if we're breathing along, I can coach you to open that heart and say, it's safe to open my heart. It's safe to love. Then immediately, not immediately, but then the breath begins to change, and then the subconscious begins to change too.
Yeah. No,
Mhm.
immediately. I mean, I've had
Yeah.
situations where you say
Yeah.
something and I'm like, whoa, you just
Yeah.
open up Pandora box, like things that I
Yes.
didn't know were there come
Yes.
out. This is
Yes.
fascinating.
And I think that's one of the reasons, like Jen, you said, that it's so simple. The breath can be so simple and easily overlooked. And I thank you for saying that, because I'm the same. You know, I have thought that, like, well, what's breathing gonna do? You know, I'm breathing every day. I've tried all these other therapies, and why would laying down and breathing with some people change that? You know? Oh gosh, and now I maybe even forgot why I was gonna say that. Because even if my skeptical mind wants to come in now after 10 years of doing this work, if I put my hand on Paula and I say it's safe to open my heart, and her breath changes, like, or I don't even put my hand on her, I just say a certain affirmation and her breath goes from doing one thing to another thing. It's like it shows, it confirms to me the magic that I know to be true, you know, over and over and over again. It's
Yes, just
really
because,
powerful.
yes, palpable changes
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
physical and also in the invisible, if I may
Yeah,
say.
of
And that
course.
doesn't
Yeah.
make it any less real.
Mm-mm. It's magic.
It's
Yeah,
mad.
yeah.
I just
And
I don't know if this is a confession, but my husband and I just watch all the movies of Harry Potter because we haven't watched none of us ever watched it. So it was very entertaining. And it's a movie based on, you guys know what Harry Potter is, but it's magic and all of that. And I really got hooked because it brings that idea of magic, of like things
Mm-hmm.
can just happen, and they do the spells and all of that, but we're doing that, our voice,
Mm-hmm.
using our voice, using affirmation, using our breath. That's how we have access to magic. Now as an adult,
Mm.
we'll leave that to the children, but that's just because we've been programmed to believe that. But yeah, our breath is our medicine. We can access
Mm-hmm.
magic and healing
Yes.
that. Um, So yeah, it is very powerful. And I hope that all of you that are listening to this go right now to your website. What's can you say your website so I don't mispronounce your last name?
No, it's NicoleRager.com. Yeah.
Mhm.
Rager. Yeah.
Yeah, you have
Mhm.
beautiful newsletters that come every week. I invite you to everything that you're doing, including retreat sessions,
Yeah.
intensive.
Yeah, and free
food.
classes too. I do I try to once a month do a free community class so that you can meet people and we just breathe together. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How beautiful. And Breath for Life is the
Yes,
name
is
of
the
your YouTube
YouTube.
channel.
Mhm.
How beautiful. How apropos.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Mhm.
Thank
Nicole,
Thank you
it is
so
truly
much.
a pleasure to have had you here with us. I know our listeners have greatly benefited from your presence, as have I.
Me too.
I know Paula has. She
Yeah.
truly raves about you, and I'm so glad to have you in my heart. And I look forward
Same.
to our continued conversations, and I look forward to your class on Tuesdays.
Yes, thank you. Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing and how you're sharing and who you are. I love that in your first episode you appreciated one another, and that it is so honest and real and true. I can echo all of it. So yeah, thank you for the peace teaching you're sharing with the world, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. Goodbye now.
Peace unto you. Bye bye.
Mhm.